morning. On behalf of Chief Kaiser and myself, I welcome you to the 2019 White Ribbon event. I'd like to acknowledge the members of Harbor Cove for their tireless efforts to end domestic violence, their co-directors Kuru Pitch and Lynn Peters and their staff that are present today. At this time, I want to call on City Manager Tom Ambrosino for the city welcome.
Thanks, Chief. So I do want to welcome everyone today. Despite the weather, it is a very good day for us to be here. This is an incredibly important event that we're involved in each and every year. Domestic violence is a pervasive problem throughout the country, and for us to think it's not a problem right here in our backyard, well, we would be blind. We all know it occurs in every neighborhood, in every city and town. And so we need to do our part, to do our best to try to reduce the level of domestic violence that exists out there. And so the city's here to support that effort, whether that means encouraging people to take the pledge we're about to take, whether that means sitting in circles to try to come up with collective ideas about how best to deal with this problem, whether that means more training for our own employees, which we're prepared to do, whether that means just being more introspective and thinking about better ways that we as leaders can model our behavior so that others can see the right way to act. Whatever it takes, the city is here to do that and to work together with agencies like Harbor Cove to make this problem less of a problem, particularly here in the city of Chelsea. So with that said, I want to thank everyone for coming out in this miserable weather, but we really very much appreciate your presence.
Thank you, Tom. White Ribbon Day in Chelsea is part of the International White Ribbon Campaign. This campaign was created by a small group of Canadian men in 1991 on the second anniversary of one man's massacre of 14 women in Montreal. They began the White Ribbon Campaign to urge men to protect women and speak out against domestic violence against women. Today, the White Ribbon Campaign is a worldwide campaign in 60 countries that has collected millions of signatures. This White Ribbon Campaign encourages men and boys to foster a positive image of masculinity, to change attitudes and beliefs that perpetuate and make excuses for violence against women, and to promote safety and respect in all relationships. Domestic violence is the systematic use of physical, emotional, verbal, financial, and/or sexual abuse to gain power and control within a relationship. Domestic violence does not discriminate based on race, socioeconomic status, religion, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Although domestic violence can be perpetuated by any gender against any gender, the vast majority occurs by a man against a woman. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 1 in 3 women has been a victim of some form of physical violence by an intimate partner within their lifetime. The presence of a gun in a domestic violence situation increases the risk of homicide by 500%. And according to Jane Doe, Inc., the Massachusetts Coalition Against Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence, in Massachusetts alone in 2018, there were 15 domestic violence homicides. All 15 homicides were committed by men. There were no male domestic violence homicide victims. These are the reasons the focus today is about men protecting women, and why we are encouraging all men, not just public safety officials, to be part of the solution. I now introduce Chief Kais for the reading of the White Ribbon Pledge.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Kuru and Lynn, for organizing this gathering here this afternoon. And I want to give a special thanks to the men and women of the Chelsea Police Department that are joining us here today. We realize this is definitely primarily a male issue. It's something we're going to strive to solve, something we try to something that we focus on each and every day. I say to the officers of our department, we need to step up, but honestly, they continue to lead by example. I'm very proud of their efforts, and I think that we go a long way to try to encourage this negative behavior that happens any place in our lives around us. So what I would like to do now, if we could, all right, so a little bit of a change of plans. I'm going to read this, and then at some point where I get to I would like everyone here this afternoon to repeat after me. Mario, you're killing me with the volume. We as the men of members of the City of Chelsea pledge to never to commit, condone, or remain silent about men's violence against women, and instead will be an ally with women by promoting respect, dignity, and equity in our personal and professional lives. From this day forward, I personally promise to be part of the solution and end violence against women and all gender-based violence. And if you don't mind, if you just repeat after me each clause that I read. I will recognize that as an adult man in leadership, I carry privilege, power, and responsibility wherever I go. Remind myself that gender-based violence is a men's issue that affects all of us, regardless of our backgrounds and identities. I will educate myself and other men about the harmful impacts of gender-based violence. I will choose my words carefully and responsibly to work toward using nonviolent language. I will speak out against attitudes and behaviors that contribute to sexual and domestic violence. I will confront sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, and other forms of oppression. I will find out how to help when I suspect that someone I know is a victim or offender of sexual assault or domestic violence. I will learn to mentor and teach boys about healthy masculinity that helps create a better world for all genders going forward. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to invite the city manager to come up and help us raise the flag.
Yay, please, God, please. Can we have some fun? I can't find the right word. Okay, it came out. I love you.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Tom. Lastly, I'd like to acknowledge Representative Dan Ryan and thank him for his constant support of all issues that are here in Chelsea. So thanks for coming. And lastly, I'd like to thank everyone here and leave you with this. If we all could wear our white ribbons proudly and do whatever we can to help Harbor Cove prevent domestic violence against women. Thank you.